Take me down to Dashcam Stories where the cars are fast and they crash in glory. Oh, Wham, Bam, Dashcam!
Noah was on his way home in San Diego, California in his 2016 Ford Fusion. He'd told his wife to take their 1.5-year-old baby home in her car and he'd meet her there. Suddenly, the driver of a gray Honda Civic turned in front of him at an intersection. Noah was knocked unconscious and the other driver fled the scene. Police responded and Noah was transported to a hospital with only minor injuries. Unfortunately, Noah's Fusion was totaled, but the good news is that the San Diego Police Department caught the Civic driver that same night. This next submitter was on his way to drop off a friend when he got stuck in a line of traffic. The driver of a truck decided she'd cut the line.
Oh shit, Vad gör han för något?
The driver of a Volvo XC60 did not want to give up their spot in line, and the truck driver came really close to hitting them before finally merging in behind them. The driver of the truck then proceeded to drive with her turn signal on for another 3 minutes until the submitter's friend pointed it out to her as they drove by. While driving back from picking up her son from school, Jen noticed the driver of a red Chevy Cavalier being super impatient, coming within inches of the rear bumper of her Mazda CX-5. The guy even yelled out his window at one point. Obviously, they were sitting in traffic and there was no way for her to make any space for him to reach the turn lanes. Jen and her husband George think it's funny that when space finally opened up, the guy gunned his engine only to screech to a halt at the red light. When reviewing the footage, they also found that the same driver had been tailgating and flashing his high beams at a different car before this happened. Jen and George actually sent us several clips. In this one, Jen witnessed the driver of a Mercedes hit a Honda before taking off. Jen stopped and provided her contact info to the victims. They later provided their dashcam footage to the victim's insurance provider, but they never found out what happened after that. On another occasion, Jen was headed to pick up her son Dominic from school when the driver of a red Jeep ran a stop sign. Fortunately, she was able to dodge the Jeep and avoid a collision. Be careful, Jen. They asked us to give their sons Dominic and Alexander shoutouts as they all love to watch our videos together as a family. Thanks for being such awesome fans. Austin was driving his Jeep Grand Cherokee when he passed a police SUV warning motorists of a traffic stop up ahead. Right as he was passing the traffic stop, a box truck came flying down the road at the same moment that a police officer was exiting their vehicle. The first officer wasted no time in pulling over the offending trucker for failing to make room for vehicles on the shoulder. Now that's instant justice. Mike was driving his Mercedes E-Class after picking up a pizza for his girlfriend when the driver of a Nissan failed to yield at an intersection. He swerved and hit the brakes, but he wasn't able to avoid a collision. The driver of the other car had only gotten their license 3 weeks earlier. Mike filed an insurance claim and repair costs came to $4,700 US. He's currently waiting on replacement parts from Mercedes. Reuben was driving his Peugeot 308 down a muddy road in Belgium when he had a close call with a forklift. Because of the muddy road, he barely stopped in time to avoid hitting the forklift. This experience has taught him to always assume that something in the distance is in the middle of the road. If we take a look at it again, we can see the lady driving the forklift was panicking, expecting Reuben to run into the forks. Here's another close call from Garrett in New Jersey. He was driving his Volkswagen Tiguan when he nearly hit a deer. He immediately said, "That's going to Wham Bam." He's got a Tesla Model Y scheduled for delivery soon, so he says he'll be taking it easy from now on. Evan was driving his Chevy Cruze to school when he witnessed a Beaverton police officer nearly hit a woman crossing the street. He was shocked that a cop, of all people, nearly hit a pedestrian. She even had a walk signal at the time that this occurred. Brian was driving along in his Toyota Highlander when the driver of a red Dodge Ram pickup passed him on the right before cutting across his lane to turn left. Suddenly, the pickup driver decided against turning, sideswiping Brian before driving off. Brian called the police immediately. 30 minutes later, the driver showed up in his wife's car claiming that Brian had rammed him. When the police saw Brian's dashcam footage, they immediately determined the pickup driver was at fault and cited him for the accident. The insurance companies agreed, and they'll be covering the repair bill of $8,000 US, which may end up being higher if frame damage is discovered. George's uncle was driving George's Nissan Sentra in Mexico when he noticed a pickup truck coming up behind him and not slowing down for the red light up ahead. The pickup driver slammed on his brakes so hard the truck spun out and nearly hit a blue Kia before finally stopping. Then he yelled at a motorcyclist to hurry up before cutting across the entire road to get turned around, burning rubber. Craig was headed home late one night in his Kia Sportage when another driver came to a complete stop on a highway on-ramp. He barely managed to swerve around them, having only seconds to react since he'd been busy checking his own blind spot before merging onto the highway. Craig's sure the other driver wasn't having car trouble since he saw them enter the highway in his rearview mirror seconds later. James was on his way to pick up his daughter from a friend's house when he witnessed an accident resulting in an SUV rolling over. A car had stopped to turn left, and the driver behind it wasn't paying attention. When they finally noticed and swerved around the car, they hit an oncoming SUV. Everyone involved was fine, which is a good thing since one of the SUV occupants was a baby. Police used this video to determine the driver that had swerved into the SUV was at fault. Thomas was driving his Toyota RAV4 one night when he suddenly hit an unexpected patch of black ice. Thankfully, there were no injuries, and the only damage to the RAV4 was some scratches on the front bumper cover. Angel was about to enter a highway in Mississippi when the car ahead of him ran straight into another car that had previously spun out on the ramp. Angel drove around the wreck, parked, and checked on the drivers. Everyone was okay. Once police arrived, he gave them a copy of his dashcam footage. This submitter was driving his Toyota Camry when a car with temporary license plates cut across the highway to take an exit at the last minute. This activated his car's automatic emergency braking, which he credits with protecting him and his girlfriend in the passenger seat from an accident. Traffic in the other lane prevented him from dodging to the right, so in the end, all he could do was slam on the brakes and hold on. Dan was waiting at a red light in his Honda Civic when he witnessed a head-on collision. The driver of a silver SUV turning left failed to yield to a black sedan, resulting in a massive crash. First responders arrived within minutes, and the drivers were able to walk away from their vehicles without any significant injuries.